March 17th and 18th of 2007, the Niles Canyon Railway and the Pacific Locomotive Association, or PLA, held a triple-tank Steamfest in California's picturesque rolling hills just east of San Francisco Bay. Join us for a look at this very special event in Niles Canyon. Granite Rock No. 10, affectionately known as Rocky, is a Porter 060T belonging to the California State Railroad Museum in Sacramento, and the smallest of the three locomotives operating at the Steamfest. Quincy Railroad No. 2, an Alco 262T built in 1924, has been operating on the Niles Canyon Railway since the early 1990s. Robert Dollar Company No. 3, another Alco 262T, was built in 1927. Donated to the PLA in 1999, No. 3 was restored to operation just in time for the Steamfest. No. 3 is under steam here in front of the Niles Canyon Railway's back shop in Brightside Yard. While Friday, March 16th was not officially part of the event and there were few spectators, it was still a good day to catch steam in action. In the morning, the Niles Canyon Railway put three locomotives together for a shakedown run up to Sunol. Here we see No. 2 about to couple up to No. 10. No. 3 eases forward to join the consist. The triple headers now ready to roll. Sunol Depot is only about a mile and a half east of Brightside, so it doesn't take long for the locomotives to reach their destination. The tank car on the left is used for water for the locomotives. After a brief pause, the three locomotives begin a backup move. To keep the neighbors happy, the locomotives do not normally whistle in Sunol. After stopping again, No. 3 is cut off from the consist and backs away on its own. With the tank car in tow, number 3 begins the trip back to Brightside. There were no diesels in use on the Niles Canyon Railway during the weekend of Steamfest, so moves like this all had to be done under steam. Number 3 pauses briefly for the brakeman to line the switch for the other 2 locomotives. Once he climbs back on board, number 3 gets underway again. Numbers 10 and 2 follow number 3 back to Brightside. Those boxy constructs on the sides of the locomotives are water tanks. Tank engines carry their own water and fuel on board instead of using a separate tender like more conventional steam locomotives. Here's number 10 coming through the gate at the east end of Brightside Yard. The 2 Southern Pacific Black Widows in the distance have been beautifully restored and are operable, but will remain parked for the duration of the Steamfest. In the afternoon, number 10 takes a caboose down the line westbound toward Niles. The train is backing over Farwell Bridge, which crosses California State Highway 84 and Alameda Creek. Going forward again, the 060T puts on a show as it climbs toward the bridge. The little tank engine kicks up quite a cloud of dust as it passes by. The morning of Saturday, March 17th dawned crisp and clear at Niles. A perfect day for a railfan excursion. A Union Pacific freight train rolls past Niles Station while we're waiting for the passenger train to arrive. The antique observation car stands in marked contrast to the modern auto racks as the morning passenger train arrives. The stretch of track in the foreground is the western end of the Niles Canyon Railway. The track in the background is Union Pacific's Hayward Line, also known as the Dakota Line. The tanker truck is in place to provide water for the steam locomotives. This is what most of the fans have come to see, triple-headed steam. Number 3 is in the lead today. The train will soon depart for the first of the day's photo run-bys. The train slows to a stop as it crosses the bridge over Mission Boulevard. This location is just east of the boarding area in Niles Station, looking toward Niles Canyon. The train starts back across the bridge to pick up the rail fans from the photo line. The event was well organized, the staff was friendly, and the photo lines were clearly marked to let photographers know where to stand. In addition to locomotives, the Niles Canyon Railway has an impressive collection of vintage railroad equipment, including passenger cars like these. Observation Car 330 sports a Yosemite Valley Railroad drumhead. It's a 69-foot car built by Hicks Locomotive and Car Works in 1907. Southern Pacific 1949 is a 60-foot Harriman Standard coach built by Pullman in 1910. The 60-foot all-day lunch car, Southern Pacific 1975, was built by Pullman in 1914. Western Pacific 315 is a 70-foot Pullman heavyweight coach built in 1923, and Arizona Eastern 453 is another Pullman, a 60-foot heavyweight combine dating from 1916. According to the Niles Canyon Railway's Saturday schedule, Robert Dollar Company No. 3 last steamed in 1959. Note that it has a rounded saddle-style tank over the boiler. With the passengers back on board, the train steams eastbound into Niles Canyon. The train is approaching Dresser Bridge. The current all-steel Dresser Bridge was built in 1906 to replace an earlier wooden bridge that was damaged in the 1906 earthquake. The train will cross Farwell Bridge next and return to the north side of the canyon. The first Farwell Bridge dates back to 1866. The current all-steel structure was built in 1896. The train begins to slow down in preparation to let people off for the second photo run-by at Falling Cow Curve. Unfortunately, just as the run-by was about to take place, number 3 developed a mechanical problem and had to be cut off the train and sent up to Brightside for repairs. The 2 remaining locomotives put on a good show for the photo line. While the rest of the train is getting ready to do another run-by, the ailing number 3 eases up the line. Numbers 2 and 10 make the second of 2 run-bys at the same location. With the number 3 still on the sideline, the train would continue to operate with 2 locomotives. morning passenger train rounds the curve heading into Sunol. Back at Brightside, a once again healthy number 3 moves on to another track. Underway again, the morning passenger train splits the semaphores as it runs in reverse out of Sunol. The Niles Canyon Railway parallels California State Highway 84 west of Sunol. Though nearly invisible through the vegetation, the Union Pacific main line is just across the road. The train eases into Brightside Yard. Number 3 and its short freight consist leave Brightside westbound. The cars are headed for Niles in preparation for the afternoon mixed train. The passenger train heads back toward Niles. The open baggage door of Arizona Eastern 453 gives a good overall view of the train as it backs around a curve. Between Dresser Bridge and Niles, the train backs up for another run-by. Number 3 waits in the clear on the south leg of the incomplete Y while the passenger train backs past. From here, number 3 will pull forward, back onto the main, and recouple to the passenger train. Photographers assemble once again on the photo line as the passenger train backs into Niles Station. Number 3 is back on the point. This area was once Southern Pacific's Niles Junction, where the line through Niles Canyon joined the Dakota line. As of this filming, the Y here is incomplete and there is no connection with the Union Pacific track in the background. The Niles Canyon Railway has an interchange with UP at Hearst, east of Sunol. The 3 locomotives come to a stop and prepare to make another triple-headed run for the photographers. In preparation for the afternoon mixed train, numbers 3 and 2 come up the line to retrieve the freight cars that number 3 brought down from Brightside earlier in the morning. The mixed train is now assembled and ready to go. The train slows to a stop between Niles and Dresser Bridge for the first of several run-bys. The train slows for another run-by at Falling Cow Curve, where number 3 developed its problem early in the morning. It seems the locomotive's in good shape now. After getting everyone back on board, the train continues up the line toward Brightside. The train slows to a stop at Brightside. After uncoupling from number 10, number 3 and number 2 pull the freight cars forward. The locomotives back the freight cars onto another track. With the freight cars out of the way, numbers 3 and 2 pull forward again. Number 2 has backed down the main to rejoin number 10. Meanwhile, number 3 returns to the track with the freight cars. Numbers 2 and 10 continue on towards Sinol with the passenger consist. The passenger train rounds the curve coming into Sinol. The depot was originally built in 1884 and was moved to its current location in 1998. This scene would not exist here in 2007 if not for the efforts of the volunteers at the Pacific Locomotive Association. Back at Brightside, number 3 moves the freight cars onto Brightside siding. The passenger train runs through Brightside without stopping on its way back to Niles. While we were waiting for the passenger consist to return to Niles, we caught an eastbound Amtrak Capital on the UP track. A short time later, a BNSF freight came through on the same track. Passenger train finally appears. Saturday's event was certainly an unforgettable experience for any rail fan. At the end of the run, passengers bid a reluctant farewell to these two potent tank engines. On Sunday, March 18th, the locomotives were operated independently. There were two different passenger consists making hourly runs in opposite directions between Niles and Sunol with a meet at Brightside. Locomotives were swapped at Niles after each run. Number 3 leaves Niles with the first passenger run of the day. This would be the only run with the locomotive pushing. Number 3 approaches the wigwags at Brightside Crossing. With the main clear, number 2 can proceed westbound. Number 3 backs out of the siding and onto the main. Once the train is clear of the switch, it will reverse direction and continue eastbound to Sunol. Number 2 and its train head into Niles. Note the ex-Santa Fe way car in the consist. Number 10 will back into Niles to take its turn pulling the next eastbound run. A short time later, number 10 appears with cars in tow. Number 2 will park on the south leg of the Y and await its turn to haul the next eastbound. A while later, number 3 brings its train into Niles. As the train heads for Niles Station, number 2 gets ready to move. Number 2 heads down the track to take its turn on the next run. This sequence of swapping locomotives at Niles would continue throughout the day. Later in the day, number 3 brings a train around the curve into Brightside. The train will pause here to await the arrival of the next eastbound. Number 10 does the honors this time, pulling its train past the wigwags at Brightside Crossing. With the switches already aligned, number 10 continues towards Sunol without stopping.